I never expected that one casual comment about my address would make my sister choke on her champagne and turn my mother's face the color of fresh snow. But there, I sat at Grandma Rose's 80th birthday dinner, watching my golden child sister Madison receive her 100th compliment of the evening, while I remained as invisible as wallpaper. When Grandma Rose finally looked my way with that familiar dismissive expression and asked where I lived these days, I simply said, "Just a little penthouse overlooking Central Park." Madison's champagne went flying. Mom looked like she'd seen a ghost. Uncle Frank whistled low and long, saying, "Well, well, well." That's when I realized I'd just changed everything. 3 hours earlier, I'd walked into Chez Laurent carrying a perfectly wrapped Hermes gift bag that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The hostess guided me toward our private dining room, where the Hartwell family celebration was already in full swing. 23 relatives clustered around elegantly set tables, their voices creating a warm buzz of conversation and laughter. Nobody turned when I entered. Not one person acknowledged my arrival. Instead, every eye remained fixed on Madison, my 26-year-old sister, who stood at the head table displaying her engagement ring like a trophy. The 3-carat diamond caught the crystal chandelier light, sending sparkles across the cream-colored walls as she gestured dramatically. James proposed at the Rainbow Room, Madison gushed to our captivated audience. He had the entire orchestra play our song while he got down on one knee. 8 months of engagement bliss, and I still can't believe how perfect everything has been. Cousin Sarah clasped her hands together. "Madison, you're living every girl's dream. A cardiac surgeon for a fiancé and that incredible ring. You're so lucky." I slipped into an empty chair at the far end of the main table, setting Grandma Rose's expensive gift beside my water glass. 8 months of engagement. My memory flashed back to 6 months ago when Madison had called me sobbing hysterically, barely coherent between gulps of air and streaming tears. "Terry James broke up with me," she'd wailed into the phone. "He said we moved too fast, that he needs space to focus on his residency. I thought he was the one. I can't handle this. What am I supposed to tell everyone?" Yet here she stood radiant in her emerald green cocktail dress, spinning tales of a perfect romance timeline that didn't match reality. The math didn't add up, but our family hung on every fabricated word. "Tell us about the wedding planning," Aunt Linda urged, leaning forward eagerly. "Have you chosen a venue yet?" Madison's smile never faltered. "We're looking at the plaza naturally. James wants something elegant that matches his family's traditions. His parents are flying in from Boston next month to finalize details." Mom beamed with maternal pride from her position beside Madison. My daughter always knew how to choose quality. Even as a little girl, she had such refined taste. Remember her valedictorian speech at graduation, the standing ovation that lasted 5 whole minutes? Dad nodded enthusiastically. Madison's always been destined for greatness. Full scholarship to Northwestern, immediate job offers from top marketing firms, and now she's marrying into one of Chicago's most respected medical families. I shifted uncomfortably, remembering my own graduation from community college 3 years later than my peers. No fanfare, no scholarships, just student loans, and a determination to prove myself in a world that seemed designed for people like Madison. While she collected academic honors, I worked double shifts at Target to pay for night classes. While she interviewed with Fortune 500 companies, I started at the bottom of a small marketing agency making coffee and filing papers. Terry's here too. Grandma Rose mentioned absently, barely glancing in my direction, before turning back to Madison. "Madison, dear, tell us about your career advancement. Your mother mentioned a promotion." Madison's face lit up even brighter. Director level now, with my own team and a corner office. The company's expanding their digital division, and they've put me in charge of the entire transformation. It's challenging, but incredibly rewarding. More lies. I'd heard Madison crying about her performance review troubles just 3 months ago, but nobody asked me to verify these glowing reports. Nobody asked me anything at all. The waitstaff began serving our first course while Madison continued entertaining the family with elaborate stories. I picked at my butternut squash soup, tasting nothing, while memories washed over me like a cold tide. Childhood birthday parties where Madison's achievement announcements overshadowed my presence. Honor roll certificates covering our refrigerator while my art projects disappeared into storage boxes. School events where teachers remembered Madison's academic excellence but struggled to place my face. Family dinners where conversations revolved around Madison's latest success while my daily struggles remained unmentioned and unnoticed. I'd learned early that keeping quiet meant avoiding disappointment. If nobody expected anything from me, nobody could criticize my failures. If I celebrated my small victories privately, nobody could diminish them with comparisons to Madison's larger accomplishments. But sitting there watching my sister bask in unearned admiration while my genuine achievements went unrecognized felt like drowning slowly in invisible water. Every compliment directed toward Madison's fabricated success was a reminder of how thoroughly my family had dismissed my actual potential. The soup course ended with Madison receiving another round of praise for her wisdom in choosing such a successful career path. I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment away from the suffocating atmosphere of misplaced adoration. The ladies' room at Chez Laurent featured marble countertops and gold-framed mirrors that reflected my strained expression back at me. I splashed cool water on my wrists, trying to calm the frustration building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. As I reached for a hand towel, the door opened and familiar voices drifted from the hallway. Madison and Cousin Sarah were approaching their conversation, growing clearer with each step. "Sarah, you can't tell anyone what I'm about to say," Madison whispered urgently. "Promise me. Not Mom, not anyone." I froze towel halfway to my hands. The restroom had a small anteroom with a privacy partition, and they'd stopped just outside the main door. "Of course, Madison. What's wrong? You seem stressed despite all the celebration." Madison's voice cracked slightly. "James doesn't know I lost my job 3 months ago. I got fired, Sarah. Poor performance, missed deadlines, attitude problems with my supervisor. The whole thing was a disaster." My heart stopped. Sarah gasped audibly. "But you just told everyone about your promotion, your corner office. All lies." Madison interrupted, her voice breaking completely. "I've been using credit cards to maintain my lifestyle, hoping something would work out before James notices. I wake up every morning pretending to go to work, spending days at coffee shops applying for positions that never call back. The ring, I insisted we put it on my credit card because I wanted something impressive for the family. James thinks it was romantic spontaneity." Sarah's shock was palpable. "Madison, this is serious. How are you paying rent? What about wedding expenses?" "I'm drowning, Sarah. Absolutely drowning. I have $17,000 in credit card debt and no income. The apartment lease expires next month and I can't afford renewal. I've been stalling James on wedding planning because I can't contribute financially to anything." My legs felt weak. I gripped the marble counter for support as Madison continued her desperate confession. "The worst part is watching Terry just coast through life without any pressure or expectations. She's always been the low-maintenance daughter, the one nobody worries about because nobody expects much. Meanwhile, I'm suffocating under everyone's assumption that I'm perfect. Do you know how exhausting it is to maintain this image when everything is falling apart? Coasting through life, low expectations." My chest burned with indignation. Madison had no idea that while she was fabricating success stories, I'd been building something real through 18-hour workdays and relentless determination. 3 years ago, I'd started freelance marketing consulting from my studio apartment, working with small businesses who couldn't afford big agencies. Late nights crafting social media strategies, weekends developing brand identities, holidays spent studying digital trends and algorithm changes. I'd slept on friends' couches when rent money went toward business software and equipment. Slowly, my client base grew. Local restaurants saw increased foot traffic from my targeted campaigns. Boutique stores doubled their online sales through my e-commerce strategies. Word spread through Chicago's small business community about the marketing consultant who delivered results without the corporate price tag. 2 years ago, I'd incorporated Hartwell Marketing Solutions and hired my first employee. Last year, we moved into a downtown office space and expanded our team to 7 specialists. 6 months ago, we landed our biggest contract yet, a luxury hotel chain seeking complete digital transformation. The Montclair Group had been hemorrhaging money to younger, more agile competitors. Their outdated marketing approach was killing their occupancy rates and brand perception. My team revolutionized their entire digital presence, creating sophisticated social media campaigns that position their properties as exclusive urban retreats rather than stuffy business hotels. The results were staggering. Occupancy rates increased 37% within 4 months. Their social media engagement grew by over 200%. Revenue per room jumped 23% as we attracted younger, higher-spending demographics. The Montclair Group was so impressed they offered us a 3-year exclusive contract worth $2.4 million. That contract allowed me to purchase my Central Park West penthouse with cash. No mortgage, no financial stress, just the satisfaction of owning something beautiful through my own hard work. But I'd kept these achievements private partly from humility and partly from fear of changing family dynamics. I'd watched money tear apart other families, creating resentment and obligation where love once existed. Better to let them think I was still struggling than to complicate relationships with success. Now listening to Madison's breakdown while simultaneously claiming I had no pressure or expectations, I realized my discretion had enabled her delusions about our relative positions in life. I just need the wedding to happen quickly. Madison continued desperately. Once I'm married to James, I'll have breathing room to figure out my career. His salary can cover my debt while I rebuild. Madison, that's not fair to James. Marriage shouldn't be your financial safety net. I know. But what choice do I have? If this engagement falls apart, I'll have nothing left. No job, no money, no prospects. At least this way I can maintain some dignity while I fix things privately. Their conversation faded as they moved back toward the dining room. I remained frozen in the restroom anteroom, processing the gap between Madison's public image and private reality. My sister was drowning in debt and deception while I owned prime Manhattan real estate outright. She was lying to her fiancé about fundamental aspects of her life while I ran a legitimate business built on honest relationships and proven results. Yet our family continued celebrating her fabricated achievements while dismissing my actual success as invisible background noise. The irony was devastating. Madison's perceived perfection was entirely fictional, while my presumed mediocrity masked genuine accomplishment. Our family's inability to see beyond surface appearances had created a dynamic where lies received praise and truth remained unrecognized. I straightened my shoulders and walked back to the dining room where Madison had already resumed her position as the center of attention. She caught my eye briefly, her expression flickering with something that might have been fear or guilt. But the moment passed quickly as Uncle Frank launched into another round of congratulations. Dinner progressed through its remaining courses while Madison continued weaving her elaborate fiction for our captivated audience. I mechanically consumed the herb-crusted salmon and roasted vegetables, my appetite diminished by the weight of secrets I now carried. As our waitstaff cleared the dessert plates, Grandma Rose slowly stood from her position at the head of the table. At 80 years old, she moved with deliberate grace, her silver hair perfectly coiffed and her navy blue dress elegant in its simplicity. "Family," she announced, tapping her wine glass gently with a spoon. "Before we conclude this wonderful celebration, I'd like to speak privately with my granddaughters. Madison, Terry, please join me in the private salon." The restaurant's private salon was a small, intimate room adjacent to our dining area, furnished with velvet chairs and decorated with oil paintings of French countryside scenes. Grandma Rose settled into the largest chair while Madison and I took positions across from her. "Girls, I've been thinking about legacy lately." Grandma Rose began, her voice carrying the authority that came from 8 decades of life experience. At my age, it's important to ensure family assets transfer to those who can handle responsibility wisely. Madison straightened, immediately sensing important news. I remained quiet, uncertain where this conversation was heading. Madison, your success in career and relationships shows remarkable maturity. You've built something meaningful with your professional advancement and chosen a life partner who shares your values. Your mother tells me you're being recruited by even larger firms, which speaks to your reputation in the marketing industry. More lies built upon lies. I watched Madison's face flush with guilty pleasure at receiving praise based on complete fabrications. Terry. Grandma Rose continued, her tone shifting noticeably. I'm concerned about your lack of direction. At 28 years old, you should have established some foundation for your future. Living in that small apartment, working at that little marketing job, no serious relationships or clear goals. It worries me deeply. My chest tightened. Grandma Rose had no idea about my actual living situation, business ownership, or professional achievements because I'd chosen to keep them private. Her concern was based on outdated information and assumptions rather than current reality. I've decided to update my will accordingly, she announced. Madison, you'll inherit the Montauk Beach House and my investment portfolio. The properties and assets total approximately $1.7 million. Someone with your business acumen and stable relationship will know how to preserve and grow these resources. The beach house. My childhood sanctuary where Grandma Rose and I had spent countless summer afternoons in her art studio. She'd taught me watercolor techniques on that sun-drenched porch overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. We discussed life and dreams while painting seascapes and beachgrass compositions. Grandma, you'll always have your summer studio there, I'd said during one particularly meaningful conversation when I was 16. Even when I'm old and successful, we'll paint together every July. She'd smiled warmly, stroking my hair while ocean breeze carried salt air through the open windows. Terry, darling, that studio will be yours someday. Art needs a permanent home, and you understand its soul better than anyone else in this family. Now, 12 years later, that promise was being transferred to my sister, based on her completely fictional success story. Terry, I'm not leaving you empty-handed. Grandma Rose continued, her voice carrying patronizing sympathy. You'll receive my jewelry collection and some smaller personal items. Hopefully, by the time I'm gone, you'll have found more direction in your life. Madison reached over and squeezed Grandma Rose's hand gratefully. Thank you so much for this trust. I promise to honor our family legacy and make wise decisions with these resources. I sat in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. My grandmother was redistributing family assets based entirely on Madison's lies, while dismissing my actual achievements as worthlessness. Years of building a legitimate business, purchasing prime real estate, and establishing financial security meant nothing because I'd chosen humility over publicity. There's more? Grandma Rose added, her expression growing more serious. Madison, your success has inspired me to increase your inheritance further. I spoke with my financial advisor about restructuring my investment accounts. Upon my death, you'll also receive my blue-chip stock portfolio, which has performed exceptionally well over the past decade. The stocks. Grandma Rose had been building that portfolio since her husband's death 15 years ago, carefully selecting companies with strong dividend histories and growth potential. She'd mentioned its value had reached nearly $800,000 through her conservative but smart investment strategies. Together, the Beach House investment accounts and stock portfolio represent my life's work, Grandma Rose explained proudly. These assets require someone with proven judgment and financial responsibility. Madison, your career trajectory and personal choices demonstrate you possess both qualities. My throat felt tight with unshed tears. Grandma Rose was essentially erasing our relationship based on false information while rewarding Madison's deception with family treasures that should have been mine through genuine accomplishment. Grandma. I managed to say, my voice barely steady. Are you certain about these decisions? Maybe you should know more about our actual situations before finalizing anything permanent." She looked at me with gentle condescension. "Terry, I appreciate your concern, but I've observed both of you for years. Madison has consistently demonstrated ambition, success, and good judgment. You're a sweet girl, but you haven't shown the same drive or achievement. These assets need someone who can grow them rather than simply maintain them." Madison shifted uncomfortably, perhaps recognizing the irony of receiving inheritance based on lies while her sister's genuine success went unrecognized. But she remained silent, unwilling to jeopardize her unearned windfall by revealing the truth. "I hope this motivates you to work harder on building your own future," Grandma Rose said to me with motherly concern. "Perhaps seeing Madison's success will inspire you to pursue more ambitious goals." The cruel irony was suffocating. Madison's fabricated success was inspiring my grandmother to transfer assets away from me, while my actual success remained invisible because I'd chosen to protect family relationships over personal recognition. I excused myself from the salon and returned to the dining room where the rest of our family was sharing coffee and digestives. Their cheerful conversations felt surreal against the backdrop of what had just transpired in the private room. 20 minutes later, Madison and Grandma Rose rejoined our group, both wearing satisfied expressions. Grandma Rose immediately launched into more praise for Madison's wise life choices, while I sat in my chair feeling like I'd been erased from family history. That's when Grandma Rose turned to me with her dismissive question about my current living situation, expecting to hear about some modest apartment that would confirm her assumptions about my limited success. And that's when I decided I was done being invisible. The restaurant's atmosphere shifted dramatically as my words about the Central Park penthouse hung in the air like smoke from extinguished candles. Madison's champagne glass sat abandoned on the white tablecloth, a small puddle of golden liquid spreading across the fabric. Mom's face had drained of all color, her carefully applied makeup standing out starkly against her pale skin. Uncle Frank's whistle broke the stunned silence. "Well, well, well, Terry. Central Park West isn't exactly budget housing territory." Before anyone could respond, commotion erupted near the restaurant entrance. Dr. James Patterson burst through the dining room doors, his hospital scrubs wrinkled and his hair disheveled from what had clearly been a long day in surgery. "Madison, I'm so sorry," he called across the room, weaving between tables toward our family gathering. "Emergency bypass surgery ran 4 hours longer than expected. Mrs. Chen's condition was more complicated than we initially assessed." He reached our table slightly out of breath, immediately leaning down to kiss Madison's forehead. "Happy birthday, Rose," he said warmly to my grandmother. "Thank you for understanding about my delay. Surgery schedules don't respect family celebrations." James pulled up an empty chair between Madison and myself, his presence filling the space with genuine warmth and medical authority. At 32, he possessed the confident bearing of someone whose daily decisions literally saved lives. "I brought flowers for the birthday girl," he said, producing a beautiful bouquet of white orchids from behind his back. "And Terry, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done to help Madison through her unemployment situation. Your job recommendations and emotional support have meant everything to both of us." The table fell completely silent. Madison's face crumpled as if she'd been physically struck. James continued oblivious to the family's shocked expressions. "Madison talks constantly about how grateful she is for your business connections and career advice. Having a successful sister in marketing has been such a blessing during this difficult transition period." Mom's mouth opened and closed without sound. Dad's coffee cup remained frozen halfway to his lips. Aunt Linda stared as if James was speaking a foreign language. "The interview you arranged with that boutique hotel company really boosted Madison's confidence," James went on enthusiastically. "Even though they didn't have an opening at her experience level, the practice was invaluable. And that networking event you invited her to last month connected her with several industry professionals." Madison made a small, strangled sound. "James, please..." but he was warming to his topic, genuinely appreciative of what he believed was my sisterly support. I've been worried about Madison's anxiety levels since the job loss. 3 months of unemployment can really impact someone's self-esteem, especially when they're used to high-performance standards. The therapy sessions are helping, but having family support makes all the difference. Cousin Sarah gasped. The therapy sessions Madison had never mentioned to anyone except James. Dr. Patterson. Grandma Rose interrupted, her voice sharp with confusion. What job loss are you referring to? Madison just told us about her recent promotion to director level. James looked genuinely puzzled, glancing between Madison and our family members. Promotion Madison was terminated from Brennan Marketing Group 3 months ago. Performance issues, I believe. She's been job hunting ever since, though the rejections have been pretty discouraging. 12 interviews, 12 rejections. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. Madison's carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time, each of James's innocent revelations exposing another layer of deception. The financial stress has been challenging too. James continued, still unaware of the devastation his words were causing. Madison's been covering expenses with credit cards while job hunting, which isn't sustainable long term. That's another reason I'm grateful for Terry's success. Madison shows me articles about your company in Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine all the time. She's so proud of your achievements. Uncle Frank set down his brandy glass with a sharp clink. Terry's company was featured in Forbes multiple times, James replied enthusiastically. Hartwell Marketing Solutions, right? Terry Madison keeps me updated on your business expansion and major client acquisitions. She mentioned you just landed some huge contract with a hotel chain that put you in the Forbes Rising Entrepreneurs Under 30 list. Every face at the table turned toward me with new recognition. Mom's expression transformed from shock to dawning comprehension. Dad straightened in his chair as if seeing me clearly for the first time in years. Madison showed me the article about your Central Park penthouse purchase, too, James added proudly. Cash transaction, no mortgage. Pretty impressive for someone our age. She said the view from your living room overlooks the reservoir and the Metropolitan Museum. Madison finally found her voice, though it came out as a broken whisper. James, stop. Please just stop talking. But the damage was complete. 23 family members sat in stunned silence, processing the complete reversal of everything they'd believed about both sisters. Madison's lies lay exposed like scattered puzzle pieces that would never fit back together into a coherent picture. James finally noticed the tension surrounding him. Did I say something wrong, Madison? You look upset. Is everything all right? Everything is not all right, Madison said, her voice cracking completely. Black mascara streaked down her cheeks as tears flowed freely. Nothing has been all right for months. She looked around the table at her family's shocked faces before turning back to James. I lied to you. I lied to everyone. The promotion story, the career success, the financial stability, all lies. I've been pretending to go to work every day while actually sitting in coffee shops applying for jobs that never call back. James's expression shifted from confusion to concern. Madison, why didn't you tell me the truth? We could have worked through this together. Because everyone expects me to be perfect, Madison sobbed. Because Terry has always been the invisible daughter who nobody pressures or judges, while I'm supposed to be the golden child who succeeds at everything. The pressure was suffocating me. I felt a surge of anger at her characterization of my invisibility as some kind of privilege. Madison, you have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? She shot back, her grief morphing into defensive fury. You've coasted through life without anyone caring whether you succeeded or failed. No expectations, no pressure, no constant comparisons to impossible standards. The injustice of her accusation burned in my chest. I haven't been coasting, Madison. I've been building something real while you've been building lies. James looked between us with growing understanding. Madison, when you showed me those articles about Terry's business, you weren't just proud of her success. You were trying to tell me something about your own situation, weren't you?" Madison nodded miserably. "Terry has everything I pretended to have: the successful business, the financial security, the professional recognition. I kept showing you those articles because part of me hoped you'd realize that at least one sister in this family was actually worth respecting." The confession hung in the air like a funeral shroud. Madison had been celebrating my achievements indirectly because she couldn't celebrate her own fabricated success with complete honesty. She'd used my real accomplishments as a way to maintain some connection to genuine success while lying about her own situation. Grandma Rose's voice cut through the emotional chaos like a knife. "Terry, is all of this true? Do you own a Central Park penthouse? Is your business really featured in national publications?" I looked around the table at my family's expectant faces, feeling the weight of years of secrecy and self-imposed invisibility. The moment had arrived when I could either continue hiding my success or finally step into the light I'd been avoiding. "Yes, Grandma, it's all true." I stood slowly from my chair, feeling the weight of every family member's attention focused on me like stage lights. For the first time in my adult life, I was the center of the Hartwell family's complete focus. "Since we're sharing truths tonight," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heartbeat, "let me tell you about some things I've kept private." I reached for my purse and pulled out my phone, opening the banking app that displayed my business and personal accounts. The numbers on the screen represented years of 18-hour workdays, strategic risks, and calculated investments. Hartwell Marketing Solutions generated $2.7 million in revenue last year. We currently employ 15 full-time staff members across offices in Chicago, Denver, and Austin. Our client retention rate is 94%, and we have a waiting list of companies requesting our services. Dad's coffee cup clattered against his saucer as his hand trembled slightly. Uncle Frank leaned forward, his expression shifting from casual interest to serious attention. The Central Park West penthouse was purchased 18 months ago for $4.2 million. Cash purchase, no financing. 2,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, with unobstructed views of Central Park and the Manhattan skyline. Mom made a small gasping sound. "Terry, how is this possible? We had no idea you were doing so well." "Because I chose not to tell you," I replied honestly. "But my success isn't just about business profits and real estate investments. I've been financially supporting this family for 3 years without anyone knowing." The confession created another wave of stunned silence. Cousin David's face went pale as comprehension dawned. "David, remember when Northwestern mysteriously corrected their billing error during your senior year? When that supposed computer glitch credited $15,000 to your account, covering your final semester tuition? That wasn't a billing error. I paid your balance anonymously through their alumni donation system." David's mouth fell open. He'd graduated debt-free because of what he'd believed was incredible luck with university bureaucracy. "Aunt Linda." I continued, turning toward my father's sister. "Your experimental cancer treatment last year cost $37,000 after insurance. Remember that mysterious secondary coverage that appeared on your medical account? The insurance company claimed it was a processing correction, but it was actually a medical grant I funded through a nonprofit organization I established specifically for family health emergencies." Aunt Linda's eyes filled with tears as she processed this revelation. Her treatment had literally saved her life, and she'd spent months thanking God for the insurance miracle that made it affordable. "Dad, your business has been struggling since the economic downturn affected construction demand. Those 3 major commercial projects you landed over the past 2 years didn't come from random bidding success. I recommended your company to clients who needed reliable contractors for their retail renovations." Dad stared at me as if I'd suddenly started speaking Mandarin. "The Westfield Shopping Center project, the Hampton Inn renovation. Those were from your connections. My hotel chain client needed local contractors with proven quality standards. Your company's reputation for craftsmanship and reliability made the recommendation easy. The contracts totaled nearly $400,000 in revenue for Hartwell Construction. I pulled up another app on my phone showing a detailed spreadsheet I'd maintained for 3 years. Mom, those surprise grocery deliveries that appeared on your doorstep twice a month. The ones you attributed to your church's charity program, I arranged those through an anonymous community service organization. The spreadsheet showed months of carefully tracked family support, grocery deliveries, utility bill payments, car repair costs, medical expenses, and educational funding. The total exceeded $87,000 over 3 years. But why? Mom whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Why did you keep all of this secret? Because I wanted to help without changing family dynamics, I explained. I'd seen money tear families apart, creating obligation and resentment where love used to exist. I thought anonymous support would allow everyone to maintain their independence and dignity. James spoke up his medical training, making him naturally analytical. Terry, this level of philanthropic organization requires serious financial resources and business infrastructure. How did you build all of this without anyone noticing? By working while everyone else was sleeping, I replied simply. 80-hour weeks for 4 years, learning digital marketing through trial and error, building client relationships one success story at a time. I started with $20 logo designs for local coffee shops and gradually worked up to $1 million campaigns for national brands. I scrolled through my phone's photo gallery, finding screenshots of major publications that had featured my work. Forbes 30 Under 30 list last year. Entrepreneur Magazine's Rising Stars in Digital Marketing. Cover story 6 months ago. Harvard Business Review case study about my viral campaign strategy that increased client revenue by 300%. Uncle Frank whistled again, but this time with genuine respect rather than surprise. Terry, those are the kinds of achievements that usually come with significant publicity. How did you keep them quiet? I used a PR strategy focused on business growth rather than personal celebrity. The company gets recognition, I stay behind the scenes. It's more effective for client acquisition when the focus remains on results rather than personality. Grandma Rose had been silent throughout my revelations, her sharp blue eyes studying my face with new intensity. Terry, you've been successful on a scale that surpasses anything I imagined possible for someone your age. Why didn't you share these accomplishments with family who love you? The question struck at the heart of years of complex emotions. Because love felt conditional on staying small, I said honestly. Madison received praise for her achievements while I learned early that my victories were either ignored or diminished through comparisons. It felt safer to succeed quietly than to risk having my accomplishments dismissed or resented. Madison looked up from her tear-stained napkin. Terry, I never wanted you to feel diminished. I was struggling to live up to the expectations everyone placed on me, not trying to overshadow you. But you did overshadow me, I replied gently, with lies that our family celebrated while my truths remained invisible. And tonight you accused me of coasting through life without pressure or expectations, when the reality is that I've been exceeding every expectation while carrying everyone else's financial burdens. James reached across the table and touched my hand briefly. Terry Madison never told me about your family's perception of your career. She only showed me articles about your success and talked about how proud she was of your achievements. I think she was trying to live vicariously through your accomplishments because she couldn't celebrate her own. The observation created a moment of clarity about Madison's behavior. She'd been simultaneously jealous of my success and proud of our family connection to it, using my achievements to maintain some relationship with genuine accomplishment while lying about her own situation. There's something else. I continued feeling momentum building toward complete transparency. The business success has created opportunities for expansion that will triple our current revenue within 2 years. I've been invited to speak at marketing conferences in London, Tokyo, and São Paulo. 3 major publishing houses are bidding for rights to my book about digital transformation strategies. The magnitude of my actual life versus their assumptions about it was becoming overwhelming for everyone to process. Years of perceived invisibility were being replaced by recognition of achievements that exceeded their most optimistic expectations for any family member. So, when Grandma Rose decided earlier tonight to restructure her will based on Madison's fabricated success while dismissing my supposed lack of accomplishment, I said, my voice carrying a note of gentle irony, she was essentially punishing me for succeeding quietly while rewarding Madison for lying loudly. Grandma Rose's face flushed with embarrassment and regret. The woman who'd raised 5 children and run a successful antique business for 30 years was rarely caught off guard, but tonight's revelations had shaken her foundational assumptions about both granddaughters. "Terry," she said slowly, "I owe you an apology that words cannot adequately express." Grandma Rose pushed herself up from her chair with more determination than her 80 years typically allowed her hands gripping the table edge for support. When she stood to her full height, something shifted in her demeanor. The uncertainty of the past few minutes replaced by the sharp intelligence that had built a successful business and raised a large family. "Before we go any further," she announced, her voice carrying the authority that commanded instant attention from every family member, "I need to make a confession of my own." The dining room fell silent except for the soft classical music playing through the restaurant's sound system. Madison looked up from her tear-stained napkin with red-rimmed eyes. James shifted uncomfortably, clearly feeling like an intruder in family drama that predated his relationship with Madison. "Terry, I've known about your business success for over a year." My heart stopped. "What?" "Google alerts, dear. I set them up for all my grandchildren's names 18 months ago after Cousin Harold told me about tracking his grandson's college football career online. Every time Terry Hartwell appeared in business publications, I received an email notification." The confession hit like a physical blow. Uncle Frank's brandy glass paused halfway to his lips. Mom's face cycled through confusion, realization, and dawning horror. Forbes article about rising entrepreneurs. I read it the day it published. Entrepreneur magazine cover story. Downloaded and printed for my personal files. Harvard Business Review case study. I discussed it with my investment advisor because your marketing strategy reminded me of approaches I used building my antique business. My voice came out as barely a whisper. "You knew about my success this entire time. I know about the Central Park penthouse purchase, the business expansion, the major client contracts, the speaking engagements. I know you've been featured in more national publications than most CEOs achieve in their entire careers." The betrayal felt worse than Madison's lies. Then why did you just redistribute your inheritance based on Madison's fabricated achievements while dismissing my actual ones? Grandma Rose's expression softened with something that looked like pride mixed with regret. "Because I wanted to test this family's character. I needed to understand whether we value substance over appearances, integrity over image." She moved slowly around the table until she stood behind my chair, her hands resting gently on my shoulders. "Terry, you've demonstrated more character in the past 4 years than most people show in a lifetime. Building a legitimate business through hard work, supporting family members, anonymously maintaining humility, despite extraordinary success. You've become the woman I always hoped you'd become. But Madison has been lying to everyone, including herself," Grandma Rose interrupted gently. "More importantly, she's been lying to James, who deserves honesty from the person he's planning to marry. That kind of deception reveals character flaws that concern me deeply." Madison's face crumpled further as she realized the full scope of consequences for her fabrications. "Grandma, I was just trying to live up to everyone's expectations." "No, dear, you were trying to avoid the work required to build something real. Terry succeeded because she was willing to sacrifice, struggle, and persist when things got difficult. You chose lies instead of effort." Grandma Rose returned to her seat, but her posture remained commanding. "The will conversation earlier tonight was completely fictional. My actual will has never changed. The beach house, the investment portfolio, the stock accounts, they're all still designated for Terry exactly as I originally planned. Relief flooded through me like warm water, but it was immediately followed by anger. You put me through emotional torture to test other people's character. I put this family through a reality check, she corrected firmly. Look around this table, Terry. Every single person here needs to examine how they've treated you versus how they've treated Madison. She was right. Mom had spent the evening celebrating Madison's fabricated promotion while barely acknowledging my presence. Dad had praised Madison's fictional career advancement without asking a single question about my actual work. Cousins and aunts had fawned over Madison's engagement details while treating me like furniture. More importantly, Grandma Rose continued, I needed to understand whether anyone in this family would defend you when I unfairly dismissed your accomplishments. I wanted to see if anyone would question my assumptions or stand up for your character. The silence was deafening. Not one person had defended me during Grandma Rose's earlier announcement. Not one family member had suggested she was being unfair or hasty in her judgment. They'd all accepted her decision to transfer my inheritance to Madison without protest or question. That tells me everything I need to know about how this family has been treating you, Grandma Rose said sadly. Terry, you've been invisible not because you weren't worthy of attention, but because everyone else was too distracted by Madison's performance to notice your substance. James cleared his throat respectfully. Mrs. Hartwell, I feel like I should leave so your family can discuss these issues privately. No, Grandma Rose said firmly. You need to hear this too, James. You're planning to marry into this family, which means you need to understand its dynamics before you make permanent commitments. She turned her attention back to Madison with the expression of someone delivering difficult but necessary medicine. Madison, your lies have hurt everyone at this table, but they've hurt James most of all. Marriage requires honesty about fundamental aspects of life. Employment, finances, mental health, family relationships. You've misrepresented all of these things. Madison's voice was barely audible. I know. I'm so sorry, James. I was afraid if you knew the truth, you wouldn't want to marry me. That decision should have been mine to make based on accurate information. James replied, his medical training evident in his calm but serious tone. Madison, I care about you, but I can't build a life partnership on deception. Trust is foundational to everything else. The weight of consequences was settling over Madison like a heavy blanket. Her engagement was in jeopardy, her family relationships were damaged, and her financial situation remained desperate. James, I said quietly, drawing his attention, Madison made terrible choices about honesty, but she's not fundamentally a bad person. She's been struggling with anxiety and pressure that she didn't know how to handle appropriately. Madison looked up at me with surprise, clearly not expecting defense after everything that had been revealed. That doesn't excuse the lies, I continued, but it might explain them. Madison, you need professional help. Not just therapy for anxiety, but career counseling and financial planning to rebuild your life honestly. James nodded thoughtfully. Terry's right about the underlying issues, but I need time to process everything I've learned tonight. Madison, we need to postpone any wedding planning until you've addressed these problems and we've rebuilt trust through consistent honesty. As for the rest of this family, Grandma Rose announced, her voice carrying final authority. Tonight has revealed how easily you celebrate lies while ignoring truth. Terry has been supporting this family financially while building a business empire, yet she's remained invisible because her success didn't come with fanfare and publicity. She looked around the table with disappointment evident in her expression. Terry, you've learned that hiding your light doesn't protect anyone. It enables other people to remain comfortable with their assumptions instead of facing reality. And Madison, she continued, you've learned that building lies is infinitely more exhausting than building something real. Character comes from choosing the difficult path of honest effort, not the easy path of fabricated success. The lessons were harsh, but necessary. Years of dysfunctional family dynamics had been exposed and examined under the bright light of truth. Now everyone had to decide how to move forward with this new understanding of reality. 3 months later, I stood in my Central Park penthouse kitchen preparing Thanksgiving dinner for a family that looked very different from the group that had gathered at Chez Laurent in September. Afternoon sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the marble countertops where I'd been cooking since dawn. The apartment had been transformed for the occasion. My dining room table, which usually served as a workspace for business meetings, was extended to its full 12-foot length and covered with my grandmother's antique linen tablecloth. 22 place settings featuring Rose's china pattern created an elegant tablescape that honored our family traditions while embracing new beginnings. Madison arrived first, her appearance dramatically different from that painful evening 3 months earlier. Gone was the desperate glamour she'd maintained through credit card debt and anxiety. Instead, she looked genuinely peaceful in a simple navy dress, her hair styled naturally, and her makeup minimal but flattering. "Terry, this place is absolutely stunning," she said, standing in my living room and gazing out at Central Park's autumn foliage. "I'm so sorry it took a family crisis for me to finally see your home." "I'm sorry it took a family crisis for me to finally invite you," I replied, honestly embracing her with warmth that felt authentic for the first time in years. James followed Madison into the apartment, his arm around her waist in a gesture that spoke of rebuilt trust and renewed commitment. Their engagement was back on track, but built now on complete honesty rather than fabricated success stories. "Madison's been working incredibly hard in therapy," James told me privately while she hung their coats in the entry closet. "Individual sessions twice a week, couples counseling with me once a week, and she's joined a support group for people struggling with anxiety-related deception. The progress has been remarkable." Madison had also found legitimate employment through connections I'd provided. Not a director position with an impressive title, but an entry-level marketing coordinator role at a non-profit organization focused on mental health advocacy. The irony was perfect. Her personal struggles with anxiety and honesty had led her to meaningful work helping others face similar challenges. "The salary is $28,000 less than what I was making before I got fired," Madison had told me during one of our new weekly coffee meetings, "but I sleep peacefully at night knowing I earned it honestly, and every day I'm learning skills that will help me advance based on real performance rather than fabricated stories." Mom and Dad arrived together, their relationship with me transformed by understanding my actual circumstances. Mom had spent weeks apologizing for years of overlooking my achievements while celebrating Madison's fabrications. "Terry, I failed you as a mother," she'd said during a particularly emotional conversation 2 months earlier. "I taught you that staying small was safer than risking disappointment, which prevented you from sharing your successes with people who should have been celebrating them." Dad's awakening had been equally profound. "I assumed you were struggling because you never asked for help or advice," he'd admitted. "I never considered that your independence might indicate strength rather than indifference to success." Now they both took genuine interest in my business developments, asking thoughtful questions about client strategies and industry trends. Dad had even referred 2 potential clients to Hartwell Marketing Solutions, both of whom became valuable additions to our portfolio. Grandma Rose arrived with Uncle Frank, who'd become one of my most enthusiastic supporters since learning about my achievements. "Terry, that hotel chain campaign you developed increased their bookings by 47%, according to the industry report I read," he announced proudly, as if my success reflected his own good judgment in recognizing my potential. "Frank's been boring everyone at his country club with stories about his successful niece," Grandma Rose said with amusement. "He carries copies of your magazine articles in his wallet like other grandfathers carry photos." The remainder of our family arrived throughout the afternoon. Cousins, aunts, and uncles who'd spent 3 months processing the gap between their assumptions and reality regarding both sisters. The dynamic had shifted completely. Instead of treating me as invisible background noise, everyone engaged with genuine interest in my life and work. Cousin David had been particularly affected by learning about my anonymous support for his education. Terry, knowing you believed in my potential enough to invest in my future changed everything about how I see myself, he'd told me. I graduated debt-free because you saw value in my education when I couldn't afford to value it myself. Aunt Linda's gratitude for her cancer treatment funding had been overwhelming. You literally saved my life, she'd said through tears. I can't repay the money, but I can promise that your generosity will never be forgotten. As we gathered around the extended dining table, I looked at the faces surrounding me and realized how dramatically our family relationships had evolved. Madison sat beside James, both of them working actively on building honest communication patterns. Mom and Dad flanked Grandma Rose, all 3 generations committed to recognizing achievement based on substance rather than appearances. Before we eat, I announced, standing at the head of the table, I want to share some important news. The conversation quieted as everyone focused their attention on me, a level of family interest that still felt surreal after years of invisibility. Hartwell Marketing Solutions has been acquired by the Montclair Group, the luxury hotel chain we've been working with for the past year. Instead of hiring us as consultants, they've decided to purchase our entire company and make me their chief marketing officer. Applause erupted around the table. Madison beamed with genuine pride rather than jealousy. Terry, that's incredible. What does this mean for your business? It means our 15 employees will become part of a larger organization with better benefits and advancement opportunities. It means our innovative strategies will be implemented across a national hospitality network. And it means I'll be relocating to their headquarters in San Francisco next spring. The announcement created a moment of bittersweet silence. Building closer family relationships over the past 3 months made the prospect of distance more difficult than it would have been during my invisible years. But I continued smiling at their concerned expressions. The acquisition contract includes provisions for maintaining our Chicago office and developing a family foundation focused on supporting young entrepreneurs from working-class backgrounds. Grandma Rose's eyes brightened with understanding. Terry, are you planning to help other people the way you help this family? Better than that, I replied. I'm planning to help them openly with recognition and celebration rather than anonymous secrecy. The foundation will provide scholarships, business mentoring, and startup capital for people who have ambition but lack resources. The foundation represented everything I'd learned about the balance between humility and visibility. Helping others anonymously had enabled my family's dysfunction while preventing the recipients from fully understanding their own worth. Moving forward, my philanthropy would celebrate both the giver and receiver, creating positive dynamics rather than hidden dependencies. Madison will be joining the foundation as our program coordinator for mental health support services. I added, watching my sister's face light up with surprise and joy. Really? Madison asked, her voice filled with hope and excitement. Your experience with anxiety therapy and honest rebuilding makes you uniquely qualified to help other people navigate similar challenges. The position comes with a significant salary increase and opportunities to develop programming that could help thousands of people. James reached over and squeezed Madison's hand, his pride evident in his expression. Madison, this is perfect for you. Your struggles weren't failures. They were preparation for meaningful work. The position would allow Madison to relocate to San Francisco with James, who'd been offered a fellowship in cardiac surgery at UCSF Medical Center. Instead of their relationship surviving despite her deception, they'd grown stronger through the process of rebuilding trust and planning a future based on genuine partnership. I have one more announcement, I said, reaching into my purse for a small velvet box. Grandma Rose, this contains the key to the Montauk Beach House Art Studio. I'm having it renovated and expanded so we can teach foundation scholarship recipients about using creativity to process life challenges. Grandma Rose accepted the key with tears in her eyes. Terry, you're preserving our family legacy while expanding it to help others. This is exactly what I hoped you'd do with your inheritance." "The studio will always be ours," I assured her. "But now it will also serve a larger purpose that honors everything you taught me about finding beauty and meaning through art." As we began passing dishes around the table, I reflected on how completely my life had changed since that evening at Chez Laurent. Being seen and valued for my authentic self felt infinitely better than any material success I'd achieved. Madison had learned that building something real, even if smaller and slower, created lasting satisfaction that fabricated success could never provide. Our parents had learned to recognize substance over appearances, character over performance. Our extended family had learned that supporting each other meant celebrating genuine achievements rather than comfortable assumptions. Most importantly, I'd learned that hiding my light hadn't protected anyone. It had enabled dysfunction and prevented authentic relationships. True humility meant acknowledging my gifts while using them generously, not minimizing achievements to make others comfortable. "Terry," Grandma Rose said as we finished our meal, "what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from everything that's happened?" I considered the question while looking around the table at faces that now reflected genuine love and understanding, rather than assumptions and dismissal. "I learned that being invisible isn't the same as being humble," I replied. "Real humility means using your talents to lift others up, not hiding your success to avoid making waves. I spent years thinking I was protecting family relationships by staying small, when actually I was enabling people to remain comfortable with their false assumptions." Madison nodded thoughtfully. "I learned that building lies is infinitely harder than building something real. The energy I spent maintaining fabrications could have been used developing actual skills and achieving genuine success. And I learned," James added, "that love requires honesty even when truth feels risky. Supporting someone means helping them face reality, not enabling them to avoid it." As afternoon faded into evening, our family lingered around the table, sharing stories and planning future gatherings. The conversation flowed naturally between serious discussions and lighthearted jokes, creating the warmth I'd always craved but never experienced during my invisible years. Later, as I cleaned dishes while guests relaxed in the living room, I looked out at Central Park's twinkling lights and felt deep satisfaction that had nothing to do with professional success or material possessions. I was finally seen, valued, and loved for exactly who I was. Not despite my achievements, but including them as part of a complete person worthy of recognition and celebration. The woman who'd once felt like background noise had learned to use her voice powerfully while maintaining the grace and generosity that defined her character. And that transformation had created space for everyone else to grow into more authentic versions of themselves as well. What started as a painful family crisis had become a foundation for stronger, more honest relationships built on genuine understanding rather than comfortable assumptions. Sometimes the most valuable gifts come wrapped in the most challenging experiences. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family, watching others receive praise while your achievements went unnoticed? How did you find the courage to step into the light and claim the recognition you deserved? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your own journey from being overlooked to being celebrated for who you truly are. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more inspiring family stories, and share this with anyone who might need a reminder that their worth isn't determined by how loudly they announce their success. Thank you so much for taking this emotional journey with me, and remember, you're never too humble to shine, and you're never too successful to stay kind. Until next time, keep building something real and beautiful with your life.